Good morning.
Made
It is. Listen, you know what? This whole Biden administration doing the Stephanie Miller show, it's even more complicated, Travis, than the, you know what? Because it's like the same kind of news cycles, but just with constant good news. And it
Right.
creates wardrobe problems. Like, I feel like I have shirked the environment because I ultimately didn't go with I Stand with Standing Rock t-shirt yesterday because I had to do that. I really do care. Do you? Getting kids out of cages. And now I have to, in honor of women's health, look, I had to do my separation of church and uterus shirt today because of all the things he just did for women's access to health care and overturning the Mexico City rule and etc.
Why do you have to make it all about you, Stephanie? Why can't you be about the environment? Why can't you support the environment, Stephanie?
I will get in my Standing Rock shirt halfway through the show. Listen, people, I can only do so much.
Wardrobe change.
Wardrobe. Okay. Good morning. Okay.
Morning.
And Travis, you were saying, even so, we can still have nice things, right?
Yes.
Now that Biden is, there's this story about the woman giving a BJ to an armed robber to detain him until the police got there. That's fun.
That's important. That's important news. That's a skill that all of us could use.
That is
listen,
news.
Do what you have to do for your country, ladies.
Yes.
Although this wasn't here. This was in Slovakia.
I wonder if he knows of Melania.
This could have been Melania. I'm just saying.
She's a patriot.
Is this going to be her story? I was just trying to detain him until you could bust him for being a traitor. Oh, which there's another story about that. Ex-KGB spy makes explosive claim about Russia's efforts to cultivate Trump since, when is it, Travis? 1987. I believe Malcolm Nance has mentioned that once or twice. Maybe Melania was just detaining a traitor until we could, get all the evidence in. Yeah. Okay, to which we say.
And Malcolm Nance has a big editorial in the Washington Post today, too.
I know. And how did we know that? Because he just told us on Wednesday. Yes, we're still too complacent about the threat of violent domestic extremism. The same thing. Should it be troubling or happy for us that the Homeland Security Department was a little bit behind Malcolm Nance? Yes, we know this. I mean,
it was Trump's Homeland Security Department.
I got to tell you, though, there's part of it, you guys, that it's just not funny. That, between the threats against members of Congress and how many of them are asking for, security, and the fact, like, how close the Senate is, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
These lunatics, will do anything they have to, I think. Yes.
And people on Capitol Hill. You got people like Dr. Fauci getting, threats to his entire family and all of that from these crazy QAnon people.
They have Hakeem Jeffries' family's cell phone numbers and home addresses. I mean, this is really, and how about the Speaker of the House having to say the threat is coming from within? Yeah. This nutty Marjorie Taylor Greene. Somebody had a great tweet about, Hoodlum said when Ronald Reagan emptied out all the mental hospitals, who knew they'd all end up in Congress? I mean, these are crazy. We covered most of her conspiracy theories yesterday. What's the new one that Jerry Brown used a Jewish laser to start the wildfires in California so that he could do high-speed rail there? He was trying to clear out the forest area. Oh my God. This is a crazy person.
A gigantic space laser.
Can we get back to the BJ story for just a second?
Okay, that's important. It's Friday.
We need this kind of can-do for your country attitude right now, people. A woman performed a sex act on a gas station robber to distract him until the cops turned up. He eventually forced the station attendant to hand over cash during a terrifying burglary. A male shop assistant fled to the back after he punched him in the face. The robber punched him in the face. Maybe he didn't think of offering the BJ. Women tend to be a little more, problem solving.
Thinking on their toes.
Right.
Yeah.
So then a mystery woman entered the gas station from the back door willing to help and to stall the criminal.
That's my favorite part of it.
She's not believed to be an employee. So that's, that's a random helper. Like that's a random act. That's a random act of kindness.
Random act of kindness.
They were busted down that back door and came in and gave the guy what he needed.
Ladies, just because you're not an employee of the gas shop does not mean you cannot offer a BJ.
She's a superhero.
In order, right? To maybe she cuffed him with a Wonder Woman bracelet, and then
Maybe your superhero name should be Felicia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelton, and I'll take this off. See? Comes on and off quite easily, actually. Yeah, the pots and pans, banging them, awesome. And we are honored to be here to care for you. Here, never at our home. You looking for something you can do, a way you can be a part of the solution? How about you just do this? How about you just do this? Stupid. I don't want to wear a mask. I can't take it anymore. I would like to apologize for my earlier conduct. You're fucking mess and stay the home. How about a little less applause, a little less banging in the pans, and a little more wearing of the fucking masks? I'm coming. I'm about to start stapling these masks to their faces. You want to know the truth? That's what I'm about to start doing.
Good morning, Steffi. I'm in the snow-covered upstate New York area, under 4 inches of fresh, powdery snow.
Oh, it's like a little snow globe with a former spy in the middle.
I'm going snowshoeing.
But Malcolm, first of all, I just have to ask you, I thought of you immediately when we heard about Biden's call with Putin yesterday.
Yeah.
Just to have an American president, that sounds like an American president, right? And it held Putin to account for all of his, atrocities, I guess, right? And it sounds like, the readout of calls with allies sound like calls to allies, and the adversaries like Putin sound like calls with adversaries. It just is like, oh my God, what a relief, right?
Oh. The great recalibration starts. And this is the best thing that could have happened to America. I know we've been on since the inauguration, but this was a very close thing. A very close thing to losing American democracy. And this is what happens when you get a real American president in power who understands what America is, who decides he's not going to throw away 75 years of alliances and align himself with a foreign dictator. And, I'm sure Putin was quite surprised to hear that Biden wanted to speak to him right away. But I think that Biden did the right thing by bringing it to the table and saying, hey, Vladimir, here's what's going to happen. We are going to have a relationship with you that is based on these factors. 1, you attacked the United States. 2, you did a cyber attack against the United States. 3, you threatened the lives of American service members around the world. 4, you want to control nuclear weapons? Fine, we'll discuss that. But Russian unchained oligarchy and funding attacks on the United States using Americans, using the American court system, that's even more interesting. It's only going to get rougher for Russia. And, I think as we start finding out the real relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, it's going to get even rougher on them.
Well, right. But just the fact that, he talked about, the arrest of Navalny, talked about the poisoning,
Right.
Brought up, but you're right, held every single thing, election interference, bounties on soldiers. And also it looks like, Mr. Art of the deal couldn't even get a nuclear deal that Biden's got probably like that, because this is, like you say, this is how you deal with Russia.
Sure. But Trump pulled out of the START treaty, the Strategic Arms Reduction talks or treaty, with the intent to make a Trump treaty. And for any of you who's read my book, Plot to Betray America, you know that in the 1970s, he published a full-page article in a full-page advertisement in the New York Times requesting George Herbert Walker Bush put him in charge of the great nuclear reduction treaties so that he could call himself a peacemaker and, once again, strive to get a Nobel Peace Prize. All he did was just dismantle everything and try to put the Trump name on it and take credit for it. Now Biden's going to get credit.
The Viking guy will not eat in jail because he can't get organic food.
Yeah.
Fill in your own snowflake liberal. Fill in your own liberal joke there.
The only reason I don't storm federal buildings is because the gluten-free options in prison are atrocious.
Did I seriously? So these are our liberal justices. So I think a judge ruled they have to feed them organic food. Huh? Did I read that? I think a judge ruled.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so right, the rioter in the Viking helmet that would not eat organic food.
Yeah, and his mother, whom he lives with.
Who storms the Capitol with their mother? The guy with the zip ties stormed the Capitol with his mother. Is there a bigger group of losers on the earth?
But his mother called him a patriot and a very gentle person. Yeah.
Yes. The QAnon supporter's mom, Martha, was quoted as saying he gets very sick if he doesn't eat organic food. He needs to eat. I have an idea, Martha. How about raising your son not to be a terrorist lunatic, to be a domestic terrorist? And then maybe the food might be secondary to what? Okay. I can't. We've been called liberal snowflakes. Yeah. They've made fun of us. All the Whole Foods jokes for how many years, really?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. F his dietary restrictions,
Well, since Kellyanne had to leave the White House,
you had to leave your project.
We had to scale back a bit. I know that we have been in the press a little bit as a family.
Fake news got a little less fake for us.
Yeah.
It's a transition, like anything in life. How's dinner?
I'm gonna cut into my gin right now. Claudia is, we're working on it.
Yeah! She's got no rhythm. Do you know how much we spent on dance lessons? We're gonna make TikTok. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna show you what it's like.
Mommy and Daddy are gonna play too.
Let's go boom. Let's go boom.
Good morning. It's funny how you have to introduce me right away because everyone can see me. So you're like, let's bring her on.
Okay. Hi. Oh, they can see her.
Okay. Yep. Oh, God. Good morning.
We even in the Sexy Liberal, they're apparently in the live panel. Some listener randomly got in our shot. So, and Hal Sparks was the only one that mentioned it because I couldn't see it. So it's just,
it happens.
The wonders of COVID broadcasting from home, right?
It happens. It won't happen today. There's no room behind me. There's no one in the apartment, and there's no one in my. If someone comes into the picture during the show, someone call 911 because there's a break-in.
You don't have any crawl space?
No, there's no crawl space in this apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Dana, we were talking about this. It's so much goodness to absorb at once, and competence and transparency and respectfulness. And oh my God, there's John Kerry. Let's take a listen.
Stakes on climate change just simply couldn't be any higher than they are right now. It is existential. We use that word too easily. We throw it away. But we have a big agenda in front of us on a global basis. And President Biden is deeply committed, totally seized by this issue, as you can tell by this executive order and by the other the initiative of getting back into Paris immediately. That's why he rejoined the Paris Agreement so quickly, because he knows it is urgent.
Here's the guy that negotiated the Paris Agreement and knows that it's not about what people in Paris think.
That's what I was going to say. He cares more about the citizens of Paris.
Yeah, but I mean, how about that? The guy that negotiated the Paris Agreement is back. I mean, it's just, oh my God, Dana, it's a lot to take in, right?
Some things are coming for circle. It's beautiful. I mean, this whole crap about, well, what about unity? What about unity? I mean, I don't remember. I voted for Hillary. Steph, you did. Do you remember anyone calling us and asking us how we felt or if we wanted the Muslim ban? Or do you remember? Because I don't remember that.
No, we were saying, Dana, why is it that all the stories when Trump won, quote unquote, asterisk, all the stories were about Trump voters and what Trump voters and then when Trump loses, all the stories are about Trump voters. And what are they mad about? What do they care about? How come no one ever, we won the popular vote both times by a lot. Why don't they ask what we want, right?
Of course they don't, because that doesn't make headline stuffy, and that doesn't make unity. It just makes they think we're placating the left. It's hypocrisy all over the board. We've seen it. We're going to continue to see it. We're seeing it with Mitch McConnell. It's infuriating. I mean, he is the king of hypocrisy.
I know, Dana, don't you feel like we should, speaking of helping global warming, we should save our breath about Republican hypocrisy? They don't care.
They don't care.
They know, and they don't care. You can scream it all day long. Benghazi this, Mitch McConnell blowing up every Senate roll to shove judges through, including Amy Coney Barrett. You can, right, stealing a Supreme Court seat. They don't care.
There's no shaming them. Absolutely.
So
there's no shaming them.
That's why we should use every trick in the book, whether it's budget reconciliation, use
Absolutely.
everything they use. I think, Travis, didn't Chuck Schumer is using, I can't remember what the thing is called, but to get our Homeland Security director through. Because obviously we have an extreme emergency bulletin that was just announced yesterday, Dana, about right-wing extremism and white supremacist domestic terrorism. And of course, the person they're blocking is the director of Homeland Security. Here's what we're going to do, how we're going to get some Tom Cruise robots to enforce COVID regulations going forward, because obviously we're very, he has purchased 2 robots to patrol the set of Mission Impossible 7 and enforce COVID safety protocols. Yes, they are state-of-the-art robots who have the ability to administer on-the-spot tests to the cast and crew. They are really sophisticated and rather intimidating. It's like the Terminator, only not as violent.
They need the robot from Short Circuit.
Right, that's true.
Johnny Five.
How about that one?
It's alive.
How about the one that already says Stephanie?
That's
Johnny Five.
That's Johnny Five.
Perfect.
Stephanie, nice software.
Yeah, right.
Stephanie Miller.
Stephanie, nice software.
So we have to tell people why you've been in the federal with this relocation program. You've been off MSNBC and social media. You were running Anthony Blinken's confirmation for Secretary of State. So you are just reemerging from your shadow since he was confirmed.
Yeah, that's right. It was a very busy 2 months. Fun to do and fun to have it over.
I have to say, well, as you tweeted, this bears repeating. Tony Blinken is a superstar, and that's not hyperbole, said Biden. I'm a little bit right now blinded by all the competence and, niceness and respectfulness and transparency. And it's hard to process all of it, but he does seem quite impressive. Tell us about our new Secretary of State.
Look, he's a very decent, principled man. Completely qualified for the job. He served as Deputy Secretary of State during the Obama administration, has worked in foreign policy his entire career. And he's like a lot of the like a lot of the Biden nominees, who are people who are just, they are, number one, qualified for their job, and number two, just decent human beings who will bring a kind of, just normal approach to government, which obviously is a contrast, but in both senses, both, competence and demeanor is a complete contrast to what we saw for 4 years.
Help me out. Who is the most evil administration in a movie or TV show? Whatever that is has been replaced with The West Wing, and it is a little whiplashy.
Yeah, that's right.
Might have been Martin Sheen. The Dead Zone. He started a nuclear war.
Yes, the Dead Zone administration has been replaced. I don't know. They even did you see they did the West Wing credits with all the new Biden people? And you were yes, the West Wing is back.
Yeah,
that's great. No, look, we're all going to have to get used to government being boring again, and remind ourselves that boring is actually good when it comes to government. You don't want the government to be too interesting.
You don't understand about my superpowers. I know Joanne Worley, and I was able to call in an emergency comedy airstrike. Boring. Yes. She actually left that on my machine. Oh, do we have the Lily Tomlin? Do we have the phone message from? You don't.
I don't think it's in the box. I think it's in the
Lily Tomlin
computer.
called her and told her I needed a boring immediately, because it is, Matthew, there is so much boring and so much competence and so much goodness and diversity and good policy. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so boring. And Twitter's so quiet. Oh God, it's glorious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the hard work of figuring out the logistics to deliver vaccines to 300 million people is not all that interesting. Making sure it's stored at the right temperature and transmitted in the last mile, completely uninteresting, but hugely important and much more interesting than, say, I don't know, the president fighting with TV hosts online. It's going to be a nice change.
So, Matthew, as former DOJ spokesman, what do you make of this argument that this is unconstitutional to the impeachment of Donald Trump, when every legal expert that I've seen said that it is clearly in the Constitution? So they're not making any defense of what he did. They're just saying, oh, it's too late.
Well, I think you stumbled on the key thing, which is they're not making any defense of what he did because they are uncomfortable making that defense, because they know there really is no defense, and it would be tough for them to stand up and try to come up with one.
Hello, I have a bigger voice than you today.
Oh, shut up. Sean was also in the middle of bringing my regular microphone and headphones and my sound effects box up here when he had to go into quarantine for COVID. And we are like, Bob, as someone else that does broadcasting, you understand, yesterday I get off the air and I read literally millions of our listeners are apparently all radio producers, are like, oh, this is ridiculous. All you need to do is hook the flux capacitor to the Barnahorn.
They're all radio engineers. Yeah.
Yes. God, like Rocky Mountain Mike with song requests. I love it when people send me tips on how to improve the sound of my show. And it's amazing, that I'm able to even record my show. It's like I've got to be like Gilligan on a bamboo bicycle to make sure it all gets recorded and put out there for people to listen to. So I absolutely feel your pain. This is not a fun thing to be going through for any of you. Take even COVID out of it. Just technical issues, just in general, are the worst thing in the world if you do this for a living, especially.
I totally agree. Yes.
And that's why I particularly, just any kind of breezy music Chris will do. I particularly appreciated this helpful letter, Bob, as I'm sure you appreciate helpful letters at a time like this. Just helpful suggestions. Yes, this is, from Renee, who helpfully wrote to me yesterday. Because I was calling Chris Grandpa because he's a little slower on getting the sound bites than Sean, because he hasn't done this since 1942 with me. So Renee says, subject line, you are being a bully to Chris. Stephanie, why do you think it's funny to be mean to Chris? It's not funny to many people. Many people are subjected to a mean boss who makes them the butt of jokes in front of everyone, and they are not able to reply in kind because of the employee-employer relationship. Is it possible to choose a different type of banter between you two? I love Chris, and I'd hate to see him leave again. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you threatening me on behalf of Chris, Renee? And also, I do apologize. I make every effort, Renee, to be just as mean to Travis. And if I somehow fell down on the job yesterday, I apologize, and I will get back to my regular level of meanness. Thanks for your thoughts. Okay.
Well, I understand. You're like Don Rickles, Stephanie. That's your shtick. You're Don Rickles to Chris.
Donald Trump has made me mean, and it's going to take me time to work my way out of it. Bob,
you were mean under George W. Bush too.
Okay, no one's meaner to me than you two know people. You know men. Thank you, Renee. And I will remind you that Chris called me the C word once. So, okay.
I did. I did. Yeah.
She had it coming.
I did. And
Stephanie, no!
Yes, in his defense, I did have it coming, Renee. Okay. Bob.
Yes.
So we're resetting what you missed in the first segment that only Travis and I could hear, but it was fantastic, right, Travis? If we do say so ourselves.
It was a good conversation.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we were saying about Mitch McConnell refusing to reconvene the Senate, right, to allow Trump's impeachment to start while he was in office, and now we're going, well, now it's too late. He's not president anymore. Oh my God, you can't trust this turtle MFer is my point. And I was just saying, Bob, this tweet about Democrats are handing Republicans a gift. Get rid of your stupid, the guy that's wrecked your party and caused you to lose all three branches of government, and you don't want to run again anyway, right? And do the right thing by accident, right?
Yeah. They keep trying the same thing over and over again to circle the wagons around this lunatic, and it's not going to work out well for them because he doesn't care about them now. At least from what I understand, he's fine with separating out and doing his own little Patriot Party, which, by the way, there was a Patriot Party already. I think back in the 1930s, there was a Patriot Party, and it was like, it's been described as being hillbilly socialists.
Come to me, Ellie Mescal.
Hello. So this is the first show that I am doing since Biden was inaugurated as president of the United States.
Wow. I thought you looked particularly handsome and glowing this morning.
The weight feels different today.
It does. It does. You wrote a great piece, too, by the way, about, well, first of all, it's just been so glorious, the Twitter silence. But, Twitter and Facebook just proved that deplatforming works. Thank you. And oh my God, can I go ahead? So go ahead.
Yes. So what I did on Inauguration Day, obviously, I love the day. Amanda Gorman just laid it down. That was brilliant. I loved watching Kamala Harris take her position as vice president. What I did for most of the afternoon was to scour Twitter looking for photos of the state capitol protests. If you remember, these white supremacist insurrectionists promised to not only return back to the Capitol on Inauguration Day, but to fan out all across the country and protest at state capitals. And when I say nobody showed up, I mean, well, that's not fair. One guy showed up in New York. There was one dude in Sacramento. There were about 3 or 4 dudes in Texas. So I just tried to capture all the pictures of these lonely protesters because it turns out lone Trump protester is my favorite phrase in the English language.
Yes.
And so I did that for all Inauguration Day. But the point of it, besides the Schadenfreude, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of it was cathartic. But yes, the point of that was that this is what happens when you deplatform white supremacists and crazy people, right? Twitter, nuked like 70,000 accounts. Facebook nuked like 10,000 Instagram accounts. And just by doing that, in 2 weeks, we went from armed insurrection at the Capitol to one dude with a Trump flag in Albany. Like that is the delta. There are lots of factors there, but one of the biggest ones was that these people were kicked off of Facebook. This one guy, last thing I'll say, this one guy in Texas literally said when asked by a reporter, what do you think about the turnout today? He said, well, I don't know if more is going on elsewhere. I got kicked out of Facebook, so I can't find everybody. He said that. He said that, right? Yeah. That's proof that these companies, when they deplatform the bad people, have an effect on our politics.
Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, that's not the last thing you're going to say. Otherwise, what would be the point of having you on? But my point, I mean, this is okay. One of the many reasons Bill Maher drives me crazy. I don't know if you saw, he got a black guy guest last week to say that racism isn't really a thing and that COVID is not disproportionately affecting black people. But let's put that aside. He also did a whole thing about how, he's not for cancel culture and they shouldn't have taken Trump off Twitter. Oh my God, Ellie, there is a difference between free speech and inciting violence. And the 6th is not the first time Trump has incited violence that has killed people, right? That's the difference.
There is a class of people out here who honestly think that the worst thing that can happen to you is to be banned from a private service. And it's just ridiculous. There is no First Amendment. There just is no First Amendment issue when a private company takes these actions. There's not. Many people have tried to explain that. If you don't get that at this point, you're just unwilling to learn. All right, the First Amendment does not come into play here. What does come into play is these private companies' business models, and all they're saying right now is that it is bad for their business to host insurrection.
Thank you.
Right.
Republicans used to letting the market decide. Remember? Republicans are the people who are going to go out there and tell us that the market is who should decide who gets food. And the market is who should decide who gets housing. And the market is who should decide who gets health care. So they're fine with the market deciding all of these critical fundamental issues, but the market deciding who gets to plot insurrection or not? No, that we can't leave up to. Nah, screw y'all. No.
Yeah.